Welcome to another episode on Discovering the Book of Mormon through Science and Exploration. Today, we will continue our discussion on Book of Mormon geography. In our episode, Book of Mormon Geography Part 1, we discussed how Lehi's party landed along the Pacific shoreline of Chile, and we also identified the four seas of the Book of Mormon lands. In the Incas and the Book of Mormon and Cusco, the city of Nephi, we showed evidence of how Cusco, Peru was settled by Nephi, the first author of the Book of Mormon. We also discussed the oral tradition of the Incas and how they were settled by four brothers, the youngest being their first king. When Lehi migrated to the New World, he had four adult sons. At some point in time, the land of the Book of Mormon was divided into four quarters. Perhaps it was their first king Nephi who divided their homeland into four quarters, one for each brother. See Alma 52:10 and Alma 56:1. Not only was the Book of Mormon lands divided into four quarters, they were also divided along a north and south axes. See Alma 22:32. So, how did the lands of the Book of Mormon match up to what is known about the lands of the ancient Andes Mountains? First, the Inca Empire was called Tiwantinsuyo, the land of four quarters. Second, those four quarters were divided along a north-south axis, in other words, a land northward and a land southward. In other words, the Book of Mormon matches up perfectly with what is known about the ancient Andes Mountains. A coincidence? Oh, I don't think so. The four quarters were named Chinkasuyo, Antisuyo, Koyasuyo, and Kuntisuyo. Chinkasuyo translates to the northern quarter, Antisuyo to the east quarter. These two quarters the Incas referred to as Quantasaya, meaning the northern lands. Koyasuya was the Incas' southeastern quarter, named after the Quala people. Kuntisuyo translates to the western quarter and was also part of the Incas' southern two quarters called Curansaya, meaning lower or southern. Garcilaso de la Vega, in his work Comentarios Reales de los Incas, relates this Inca oral tradition, quote, that after the waters of the deluge receded, an unnamed man, presumably Lehi, appeared at Tiwanaku. This man was so powerful that he divided the land into four parts, giving each quarter to one of four kings. End quote. Perhaps these are the four adult sons of Lehi. The place where the four quarters met was the temple in Cusco, from which all quarters, cities, streets, etc. were addressed. The parallels between the Book of Mormon lands and the four quarters of the ancient Andes is blaring. Knowing that we have a possible overlay for a map of what the Book of Mormon lands should have looked like, we need to ask ourselves what other geographical features should be found inside those four quarters. Four seas, which we have already identified in our previous episode, exceedingly high mountains, a wilderness, a land called Desolation, a natural harbor, the River Sidon, a narrow neck of land which we will clearly identify in our next episode. Exceedingly high mountains. When Nephi received divine instructions in the New World, he was carried away to exceedingly high mountains, where he received great things that were so sacred that he could not write them down. 2 Nephi 4:25. Arthur Coggahans believes that placing the descendants of Lehi in the Andes Mountains is a direct fulfillment of the blessing Joseph of Egypt received from Israel. Lehi was a descendant of Joseph, who was promised that his seed would be progenitors unto the utmost bounds of the everlasting hells. Genesis 49:26. Not only do the great South American Andes
fit the description of everlasting hills, placing the Nephites and Lamanites in the range's highest inhabitable valleys, sometimes up to 13,000 feet above sea level, is also indicative of the mountain's utmost bounds. The Andes Mountains run the entire length of South America, with 14 peaks over 18,000 feet in height and 9 peaks exceeding 20,000 feet above sea level.
The name Andes Mountains comes from the word ante in Quechua, meaning east. John Shodal provides direct evidence for why the Book of Mormon lands were mountainous.
Antipas, the name of a mountain. Alma 47:7. Antum, the name of the country in which Helshim was situated. Mormon 1:3. And Onti, the name of a piece of silver money. Alma 11:6. are incidents of the use of the word anti in the Book of Mormon. Finally, the linguist Hugh Nibley taught that the word borders, as used in the Bible, should be interpreted as mountains or jubal in Hebrew. The word borders, meaning mountains, is used 65 times in the Book of Mormon. A wilderness. The Andes Mountains of South America and its adjoining desert wasteland along Peru's Pacific shoreline, along with the largest rainforest on Earth, the Amazon basin, provides dozens of areas that could be called wildernesses. The word wilderness is used 214 times in the Book of Mormon and is often used in proximity to shorelines and mountains. A land called Desolation.
The land of Desolation was on the eastern shoreline of the Pacific Ocean and near the place where Hagoth set sail for Hawaii or Polynesia, Alma 22:20. The Nephites called it Desolation because of what had happened to the people who once dwelt there.
A coastal plain called the Rimac Valley is where the modern city of Lima is located. The ancient geographical name for the area was Huarochirí. This strongly suggests that the valley where Lima is located is the precise location for the Book of Mormon's Land of Desolation. Incredible as it might seem, the Incas actually called this valley, quote, the land of the people of desolation. In 1598, the Spanish priest Francisco de Avila wrote of the oral traditions of the people who lived in the valley, included, "We have already recounted the lives lived in ancient times. Nevertheless, we don't know the origin of the people of those days, nor where it was they emerged from. These people, the ones who lived in that era, used to spend their lives warring on each other and conquering each other. For their leaders, they recognized only the strong and the rich. We speak of them as a Purim Runa, people of desolation." The Inca lands of the people of desolation was found in their northern quarter, which is consistent with the Book of Mormon description of the land of desolation being far northward. A natural harbor.
Hagoth and others launched ships into the Pacific. Vessels with the capacity to take settlers and their provisions to far-off islands in the Pacific had to be large and strong enough to withstand the forces of the open seas.
Such ships require a sheltered harbor with calm waters for their construction, launching, and sea trials. Hagoth launched his first ships near the land of desolation, Alma 62:5. From Lima, or the land of desolation, it is only 161 miles to the natural harbor of Paracas, Peru. The Bay of Paracas is the largest natural harbor in Peru. The River Sidon.
The Book of Mormon describes a river called Sidon running adjacent to the city of Zarahemla. There are over 2,000 rivers and streams with their headwaters in the Andes Mountains. But thanks to King Lamoni's description, we know that the River Sidon was in the land southward.
The empire that controlled this region during Book of Mormon times was the city archaeologists call Pukara. We will explore later why Pukara is a qualified candidate for Zarahemla. For now, let's propose that the river Pukara was once called the River Sidon. But is the Pukara River qualified as a candidate for the River Sidon? Here is all we know about River Sidon. First, at least a section of the river near Zarahemla appears to have run either north to south or south to north. All the Book of Mormon states is that there were features or events on the east or west sides of the river, implying also that the city of Zarahemla was on the west side, Alma 2.
The actual direction of the flow of the River Sidon is not recorded in the Book of Mormon. Second, the River Sidon emptied into a sea, Alma 3:3. Although it is not mentioned which sea it actually flowed into, the inferences in the Book of Mormon seem to imply that it was the Sea of the East or Sea of Titicaca. See Alma 22, 27, 29.
The Pukara River has its headwaters in the La Rea Pass and flows southward until it empties into Lake Titicaca, the East Sea. The ruins of the great city that is today called Pukara is found on the river's west banks. The actual ancient names of the ruins called Pukara and the river that flows by it remain unknown.
The geography of Peru matches the geography described in the Book of Mormon. Indeed, it matches it perfectly. I dare anybody to come up with a geography that matches it so precisely.
A land divided into four quarters with a north and south axis. Within its boundaries, four seas with exceedingly high mountains. A land with wildernesses. A land that was actually called Desolation. A natural harbor on the Pacific Ocean, and a river that qualifies as Sidon.
In our next episode, we will identify in Peru where the Book of Mormon's narrow neck of land was located. Discover more about the Book of Mormon by subscribing to this channel, or you can visit our website, christinperu.com, where you can find our books and learn more about our annual tours to Peru. Thank you.